Subone Katie, bringing to you my initial review, initial thoughts on Warzone Mobile, and why I think Warzone Mobile is actually a more fun experience than Call of Duty BR on Urzikstan. So, I want to get through some of the rough stuff first, because this game has rough edges, and if you are expecting a 4K Ultra fits great on your 65-inch TV graphic experience, which is something COD has really made its name for, right? Those graphically detailed, immersive environments. You're not going to find it in this game. It's a mobile game, and it's kind of like playing. It looks like you're playing Fortnite on the Switch, but with with a different color palette. So that being said, the graphics are good enough on my phone, which is an iPhone 15, which is one of the highest end phones devices you can get, and it's like $1,000 or whatever it cost. It's ridiculous. So this is not the experience that everyone's going to have. And if you're on Android, Androids are terrible for optimization, especially when you have to optimize across a bunch of different phone models, across different platforms and different providers. From experience, I can tell you that trying to get something like this to run smoothly on all of them, terrible experience from a developer's point of view, much less going to be from a user's point of view. So if you're an Android user, set your bar low on what to expect. Okay? You just, by default, it's going to be rough. And if you're on an older device, I mean, my phone is like really hard to touch. It's hot. It's running super hot. And on top of that, the battery is draining. I have it charging while I play, and in 2 hours it drained from like 94% down to like 30%. So don't expect to get a lot of play, to get 8 hours of playtime off a single charge, because this game is going to suck your battery dry. So those are some negatives. Another negative is, there's touch versus controller input, which, especially if you're new at touch input, is going to be a very, very difficult thing to deal with. So that's a negative in a lot of ways. What else is negative? There's the servers are not. I do not know if the servers are spooling up because it's new and it's taking a high load up front, or if it's the same old COD server crap we have to deal with normally. But a lot of bugs, a lot of latency, and because it also presses the phone hardware to its limits, I think that I run into anytime my phone fetches something in the background, it pulls data for apps. I get stutters, and it gets kind of choppy in game. So I think that there are absolutely issues with this game. It needs work, and it also needs to be looked at as what it is. It is a mobile game. It is not a portable version of the full game that's out. Okay? The controls are touchy. I mentioned that. On controller, the dead zones are huge. Like, if you're used to playing with a 0.2 or 0.1 dead zone, the dead zones on this game feel like they're probably a 1 at least. They're huge, and there's, as far as I can tell, no way to change them. So from everything that I have observed, there's a lot of adjustment. There's a lot of expectations that need to be changed. But generally speaking, when you get past all that, and I know people have had trouble logging into, that's totally off topic. Codfather had a whole video issues with that. So there are issues. There really are. But here's the thing. When you get past them and you actually get into the game and you get used to the controls and you get onto a stable server and you're playing the game, there are a couple of things that kick in that make this game more fun than Urzikstan. And some of these, if you followed me for a while, are going to shock you when I say it. Number one, I don't think there's any SBMM in this game. If it is very slight. And I've enjoyed it. The difference between SBMM heavy Warzone and this game, it's refreshing. I got slammed a couple of times. I also did really stupid things, which is my normal way of playing, and got crunched. But I also was able to win a lot of gunfights, picked up a win, um, and it played. It felt like when Warzone launched, and they didn't have to put SBM in, and there were enough players to not have to worry about it. It felt like that. Like you never knew if you were going into a gunfight with a super sweaty player or a really bad player, and you didn't have that. You had that variety of how you played, and I think that was really good because you didn't go into a lobby like I didn't jump into a lobby and feel like, oh gosh, here's a sweaty, warm up was a certain way, so here's a sweaty lobby, and then it's just a miserable experience. The game was just fun. I won. I played well. I had some good games. I had some not so good games. And there was the variety of it was fun. Contrasting it between Call of Duty Urzikstan and Warzone Mobile. The fun is in mobile right now. And a good part of that is because I can tell that there's not SPMM. Here's the big tell. I won a game. I played 3, 4, 5 games afterwards, and every one of those felt like every game before. It didn't feel like all of a sudden I'm dropped into Warzone Mobile, worldwide competition, right? World Series of Warzone Mobile. Like it didn't feel that way. And honestly, I think this is stressing the sweaty players out because there doesn't seem to be a hot drop yet. So I've actually heard complaints that the really good players can't find enough kills to make them happy, which is okay. But that actually ties into something else. There's no coming back, right? Like, shoot, I can't even keep teams, alive long enough to buy them back. People die, they quit out of this game, which is kind of a bad thing. But at the same time, it's good because we're getting to the end circle, and there aren't 5 full teams ready to jam together and just have a wild time in the final circle. Every team is broken. Every team is in a scramble. I was playing quads. The final circles, I would get into the quads, and it would be 1v1v3 or 1v1v2 or 2v1v2. Right? It's not 4v4v. Somebody's ratting. The one person ratting out in the corner or hiding in a bush. Right? Everybody that everybody has a life to play. They play the life. If you get a buyback, the buybacks are $4,000. There's no buyback tokens. There's no redeploy packs. None of that. Which means the game plays very consistently. It plays fluid. The loop it feels normal for a BR. It feels like I'm not playing Resurgence. If you're a Resurgence player, Rebirth Island is back. All right? BR is fun again. And not coming back 100 times, not trying to be Resurgence, I think is one of the big factors in that. So, adds to the fun factor. In addition, as far as I know, there's no cheating. If there's an there's a couple clips coming around, whether they're graphical glitches. I haven't seen them, but I've heard about them. It could actually be a graphical glitch and not a cheat. I've talked to my contacts. Most of in the underworld, most of them say the cheat developers aren't doing anything. They're not interested. They don't think the profit's there for them, so they're not touching it. So good for us. It takes such a relief off the shoulders to jump in and know you're not going to get hacked on by some dweeb. Okay, so that feels good. And then on top of that, on top of all of that, the time to kill is higher. But I don't think it's higher statistically. I think the number of shots to kill is comparable, is much lower than Warzone main. I think that if you hit all of your shots like center chest, your average is probably going to be 700 TTK. But here's the thing, and here's the thing that's going to shock you when I say it if you followed me for a long time, because you know where I've stood on this. Aim assist is nerfed in comparison. It's really, really different, and it's really, really turned down in this game, and I think the game is better for it. Here's what's turned down. You've seen the clip. It's going around testing rotational aim assist in this game. And actually, rotational aim assist are very strong. And that's okay because it's doing what it's supposed to do. But here's where aim assist is not working the same. It is not locking onto the player model and letting you blast it. Aim assist in Urzikstan on the main game, if you are activating aim assist properly, it will actually counter some recoil, it will counter visual recoil, and it will actually hold you on target as long as you can keep your rotation kind of within the bubble. In Warzone Mobile, they don't actually do that for you. What they do in Warzone Mobile is they give you good rotation so that if somebody is moving past you, you can rotate quickly and stay with them. But when you are shooting, aim assist doesn't override recoil. Aim assist doesn't override you missing targets. It doesn't lock to the player model. And so what you end up seeing, and I have clips of it that I've put up already, where I am staying within the bounds of what is traditionally aim assist. And I'm all over the place. I'm overshooting, I'm undershooting, I'm left and right. And that is, I think, one of the areas that makes this game more fun, because what ends up happening is everybody misses more shots. Everybody does. And when you're missing shots, it increases the TTK. So even though the theoretical TTK is low, right? It's like offhand, I'd say 700, 750 milliseconds, which is what it was in Warzone when it launched. It was about 750 milliseconds at 50 meters or whatever. But this game, because the aim assist doesn't lock onto the target, it still rotates, it still lets you hang in there, but it forces you to micro correct, especially on controller. Forces you to micro correct to stay on target. It increases the survivability, especially at range. Like if I am 25, 30 meters away from someone and I'm shooting at them and they're jumping back and forth, that breaks the aim assist, right? That breaks the lock, unlike in Warzone Urzikstan, where somebody hopping back and forth at 20 meters, you're going to stay on target. You're still going to hit those shots for the most part. And I think what that does is, because everybody is missing more shots, the more skilled player will tend to survive better. But it doesn't destroy the ability to stay with them. So if you remember back in Rebirth Island, there were always these players that were like running back and forth behind a player, essentially abusing their field of view, disparity, and being able to take advantage of that. And the players, because especially if they were locked at 80 FOV, they just couldn't rotate enough to keep up with someone doing that. In this case, the rotation doesn't go away. You can still rotate fast enough to keep track of somebody who's trying to run past you. But to hit the shots, you have to control the cursor, the point of aim, enough to be on target. And at the end of the day, it means that you're going to survive more scenarios that would normally kill you, which means you get to play longer. And as you build skill, you will get more kills per game because you can actually get your crosshair on target more than someone who doesn't have the skill. So I think at the end of the day, it's the right balance, right? It's not destroying the ability for a controller player to keep up with movement, but at the same time, it's not overpowering the number of the hit percentage that you get when you are playing in game. And I think that's the problem. And I think that the way that Warzone is solving the problem of people dying, feeling like they're dying too fast, is by making nerfing the gun damage and nerfing the gun stats, which is ruining the game. And they're adding more health, right? So they're trying to make the gun slower and they're trying to give the players more health. And the problem is that it just messes with the meta. It messes with what guns are viable. It messes with what you can use. In this game, the guns all seem viable. I haven't come across a gun I can't win a gunfight with yet, ground loot or not. The reality is, I can survive in the gunfight long enough for a slower TTK gun to prevail. And it's because the aim assist lock on is not as powerful. And I think that is a huge factor that, to be honest, I have dismissed it up until this point. But going from one to the other, back to back like this, I'm not relying on memory. I'm not relying on, oh, well, back in the day it was a certain way and wasn't it fun, 10 years ago? No. Yesterday I played one way. The day before I played the other. And side by side, the way that Warzone Mobile is handling aim assist is better than the way Urzikstan is doing it. Because it increases the survivability of a gunfight, it rewards skill, and it makes the game more fun overall. So, honestly, right now, the state of Warzone, I don't know if I can go back to Urzikstan. Because that game is more frustrating to play than Warzone Mobile, even with all the mobile issues that Warzone Mobile has. I think that's a better bang for your time, a better use of your time playing Warzone Mobile than it is logging into the main game. That's what I got for you today. Catch you on the next one.